Ready?
What's going on, junkies? It's Brandon Dukeman here with Will Harvey, and this is the Daily Wealth Junkies Show. Thanks for joining us today. And before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the shows so you're not missing any of our episodes. Rate and leave a comment so we know how we're doing. And also join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. Will, who's our guest for today?
Thanks, Brandon. Today we have Matt Hermes on the show. So he is the owner of the Hermes Realty Group. They're based just north of Atlanta, and he has 7 agents, 2 admin, and 1 outsourced ISA that is on their team. And Matt, with that, we're going to dive in a lot deeper and kind of unpack everything. Matt, can you just give the listeners a little bit more about your background and what got you to where you are today?
Sure. So, well, first, appreciate you guys having me on. It's certainly an honor to be able to sit in on this and just kind of share a little bit. So yeah, I've been in, we were talking a minute ago, I've been in real estate. I got my real estate license in 2002. Prior to that, I was in a couple of different industries, but kind of my jump into real estate was for a couple of different reasons. Number one, for wanting to invest in the real estate, be it single family, multifamily type properties, grow my wealth through that, or that was the initial intent. And then secondly, really, my wife and I, we moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to Atlanta in the early 2002. When we put our house on the market in Charlotte, we had a absolutely awful experience with the 2 agents that we dealt with. The first agent, this was our first house. It was a $121,000 house. The first agent allowed us to list the house at $170,000. For whatever reason, I don't know what that was, but she just said, yeah, I threw out a price. She said yes. And, it sat on the market for 90 days. I think we had 1 showing, and me not knowing anything about real estate, I'm like, I wonder what's going on here. We ended up letting her go. The second agent came in, was at least truthful with us about where we needed to be price-wise. Price that ultimately got it sold, but we saw him once. That was at our initial listing presentation. Then we heard from him once throughout the process, and he didn't even show up at the closing. And I'm like, damn, this guy just made, and again, for me at early 30s, $3,600 on his side of the sale for a $121,800 listing that he sold, and not to even show up, not to say thanks. It was awful. And I'm like, if this guy can make that money, I know that I can do a lot better.
So if you could make money with that terrible attitude and work ethic,
So we had moved to the Atlanta area. I was in a different industry. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened. I saw the writing on the wall in what was going on in the industry. I was in the material handling business. Said, you know what, I'll get my license. Ultimately got let go from that one job and had nothing else really to fall back on. So I just jumped into real estate. So I've been doing real estate full time since 2002.
Wow. What did 9/11 do? I'm just curious. What did it do to that industry? How did it affect it?
It's interesting. That's a great question. So it was immediately known within a month or 2 afterwards that the industry that I was in, which was we were selling anything that moved equipment or stored equipment in warehouses, that we were going to be in a big hurt and a big downturn from I won't say recession, but we'll call it a recession. And okay. I was smart enough at that point to know that the industry isn't going to grow. It's going to detract. And it wasn't a great industry as it was. So I was like, man, this is just, I was surprised. I made it like 9 months, and, they came to me, and I knew the writing was on the wall. So I was already in the process of getting my license. But I mean, just the economy, in my opinion, from where I was sitting, the economy just stopped. Mm-hmm. Nothing was being bought. Nothing was being moved.
And how did you start that job? Did you start doing it out of high school or college, or give us the progression there?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated college in '89. immediately after that, my degree was in communications, TV communications. And my first job offer was $14,000 to be a cameraman for a TV station.
That's pretty cool.
Sports. Yeah, but $14,000 doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not pretty cool.
So I decided to move out to. I was going to school in North Carolina. Decided to move out to Phoenix, Arizona. So I just packed up everything, moved out to Phoenix on a plane with I think 2 or 3 suitcases, and moved in with my brother who was living in Phoenix at the time. And then within a very short amount of time, I got into the golf business. So I was playing a little bit of professional golf, but realized very quickly that I wasn't good enough. But I had an ability to teach. So I was a teaching professional for about 5 years.
Wow, very cool.
Through the people. Nice. Yeah, so through the people that I met, which was a great industry, I got to move around to a lot of really cool places, see a lot of people, meet a lot of, just fantastic connections. And one of those offered me a position back in the South, in South Carolina, which I ended up taking. And that's how I got back in the South. So I got into that type of industry kind of by default, but man, I hated it. Yeah, I didn't like what I was doing. It was paying the bills. But, you wake up in the morning and you want to get energized, and you want to be energized and be looking forward to the day. And no matter what I tried, I just couldn't do it. So
why do you think that is?
Because I just didn't have a passion for it.
Got it.
We always succeed. I think for the most part, we succeed on a high level when we're motivated to do something.
Absolutely.
And I just wasn't at that point. Now, so we ended up in North Carolina. My wife and I ended up in North Carolina. And in 2000, got married in 98, 2001, we decided to have, I'm losing my dates. I'm getting old. In 2000, we went to the Ukraine, and we actually adopted our two of our kids.
That's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was, kind of a big change for us. We went from 0 kids to 2 kids in a day, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
And then when we landed 6 months later to the day, we had our 3rd child, a biological child. So we went 0 to 3 kids in 6 months. We were in Charlotte, and we said, you know what, let's move down to Atlanta area, which is where my wife's family was. So that's how we got here. And I was still in that same business. So that's kind of where, make a long story into a not too long story. So that's how we got to the Atlanta market.
Got it. Brandon, I saw that you were, about to ask something.
So, I mean, before we started recording, we talked a little bit that, the job that you had prior to the real estate, you slept underneath the desk or hid underneath the desk from the boss, and because it was that miserable for you. Can you kind of talk?
Yeah. We did. I remember a day, and this was, I don't think I've ever told anybody that, but I remember one specific day, the job was so miserable. My boss was so miserable that, and there was nothing to do. I mean, there was literally nothing to do in that role that I had. And I was tired, and I'm like, well, shit, I can't sleep on the desk. Right. And I had this nice little L-shaped desk that I was able to crawl under. And I don't know that I slept, but I was under there just like, what the hell am I doing? And this is not what my purpose was at that point. So it was an interesting little,
wow. That's great though. I mean, it just, if you're doing it, I'm sure there's other people doing it too, you're not the only one that's miserable, has that miserable boss that doesn't treat them right.
And I think, you're right. And I think what we all need to make sure that we do, especially as we're, either a young adult, and I say young adult with the utmost respect for, younger generation. I don't buy into the whole millennials and, all that crap. There's good people, hardworking people in every generation. There's also lazy ass SOBs in every generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So what I would say is, looking back, man, if I was in real estate in my early 20s, my life would look a lot different. Okay, from a
Really?
financial aspect, I truly believe. However, and we'll get into this more in a little bit, I wouldn't trade anything that I've done because it set me up, and I am where I am today because of everything, because of that stoplight that, I stopped at instead of going through, or making a left turn, or whatever. I met my
Absolutely.
wife walking a dog, we both had dogs, and we met in the parking lot of an apartment complex. If I didn't go out at
No
that
kidding.
exact time, I wouldn't have met her. So,
Very true.
I wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't go back, but if I could reset, I would have gotten into my career, which is real estate, a lot earlier.
Interesting.
And we actually hear that from a fair amount of people who, not nothing against your age, but
You
just
can say old.
individuals who are older and who,
Yeah.
kind of just discovered real estate within the last, 10 years. They said, shit, I wish I would have, figured this out sooner. So that way I would be in a more advantageous position.
Yeah. And I think, for me, when I went to college, it was, you don't hear much about real estate when you're in high school. It's, business degree or marketing degree, or, going into medicine or engineering. You don't hear real estate. And I don't know that I
Right.
would have done it when I went to school, but, real estate seems to be in almost all cases kind of a fallback. I got in because of this.
Right.
I grew up wanting to be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. That's, usually it's somebody gets, it's kind of like a midlife crisis thing you see with a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. But when you decided to jump into it, you pretty much burned the ships and jumped right in. Is that right? Is that kind of what I
Yeah, I
heard?
had to, because I had no other job. So it was either sink or swim.
Do you
So
think having that where there's nowhere else to go, do you think that helped you? Because a lot of people start real estate while doing something else, and it's more of a side hustle. Do you think you just going right in?
you have to. We don't hire part-time agents.
I love
And
that.
the reason is because there's always that fallback. I'm going to
Right.
do this for the next 3, 4, 5 months, and then I'll jump in full-time. You'll never jump in.
Right.
So you have to, real estate really is full-time. It's not as easy as it looks. HGTV is,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. It's good entertainment.
Yeah, it's good entertainment, and it serves its value, but you have to jump in full-time. It doesn't do you any good. You certainly can't represent a buyer or a seller or an investor very well if you're doing it part-time. So I won't say that I haven't hired part-time agents, but I haven't hired a part-time agent that's worked out yet.
Yeah, that makes complete
Yeah, I always
sense.
used to my days in the lending world. I first off would never want to work with a part-time agent just because they didn't do a lot of business usually, or else they'd be in it full time. But I always used to look at that and think, would you hire a part-time dentist or a part-time doctor or why
Yeah.
why is
Yeah.
it so acceptable to be part-time in that when you're dealing with one of the if not the biggest financial decision of someone's life. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So what did you do once you jumped in? How did you get going and build a book of business?
Um, that's a really good question. And what I think goes to show is that, so I jumped in 2002. It was about mid-year 2002. And if you remember, we had moved to Atlanta in 2001. So I didn't have, I didn't go to high school. I didn't go to college here. Didn't have a big extended family. So it was having to build the business from the ground up. And it was a lot of networking. It was a lot of going to events. It was a lot of calling on expireds and FSBOs. And, my personality is 180 degrees opposite of calling on FSBOs. I hate them. I hate FSBOs. I hate expireds.
Can you explain what those are? FSBOs and expire. Me personally.
Sure. So a FSBO is a for sale by owner.
Okay.
So a house that a homeowner is trying to sell on their own. An expired listing would be someone that has had their house on the market and then it didn't sell, so it's been taken off the market and calling it. So those are challenges for me. I'm a big introvert. I have a very fragile ego, and I don't like being told no. And even if it's a stranger, my feelings get hurt. So, it doesn't make any sense, but I'd rather talk to people that want to have a conversation with me. So, but when you're doing things, you have to step out of your comfort zone.
That's right.
So it was necessary, and it was a necessary evil. So I needed to do it. So that's
So
how I got started.
How did you get over that? Because that's something I struggle with too. We go to meetups and
Oh,
stuff.
I haven't gotten over it yet.
No, you just kind of.
I don't think anybody, if they say that that's natural, I think they're lying.
Yeah.
Well, I think for some people I have a much easier way to do it, but for me, being an introvert, I mean, literally just looking at you two, I'm like, oh shit, do I look all right? It's my, what I forced myself to do is, for a very short amount of time, just step out of my comfort zone, be it 30 minutes or an hour, and just be someone that I'm not comfortable being. Okay. Going and starting conversations. Go find the other introverts that are out there, because you can tell, because I walk into a room, the first thing I'm doing is I'm pretending that I'm on my phone looking at an email, or I'll have the phone up to my ear pretending I'm on the phone, just scanning the room to see, if I know anybody. So getting outside of that comfort area, comfort zone for 30 minutes or an hour, then I know I can slip back into being that introvert, and then go away, take a walk for 5 minutes, clear my head, and then come back in. So I think that's what I need. That's what I needed to do. And when I talk to people and coach them, that's certainly something that I always say, just step out for, be it 5 minutes, go talk to one person, then go to the bathroom, step back in the room, talk to another person or two. So that's how it works for me.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's huge too. Cause it's, you go to these networking events, and there's, sometimes there could be 10 people, sometimes there could be, 300-400 people, and it's overwhelming if you're not comfortable with, starting up that conversation, and, just talking to one person can exhaust you. So
it can,
but
it can also lead to a really good relationship.
Absolutely.
Too.
That's right. Doesn't it feel really good once you do something that's outside of your comfort zone, and then looking back, you're like, man, I'm so glad I did that. It's like, I was so close to not doing it, but since I did it, it felt so good.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain times that works well. And then, there's no doubt about it. We had, just the other day, something similar to that happened, where I had a conversation with someone that I typically wouldn't. And it's probably going to turn into a good relationship, maybe not from a business standpoint, but from a professional standpoint, and someone that I can help, that needs help. And
That's cool.
I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And that's the big thing is just for me, doing everything that I can, giving back after all the shit that I want. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah. You're fine.
Okay, good. All the shit that I've gone through and put myself and my family through, to be able to give back is massive to me.
Yeah, no, that's huge. So where did you go from there? Once you started, you started calling on FSBOs and expireds and all of that, and doing networking events. So how did things progress from there?
Actually, pretty well. Within 3 years, I was making about $250,000 a year from,
Wow.
36,000 in my previous line of work, or 40,000, something like that.
It's a pretty good jump.
Yeah, it was, and it was great. And we had moved houses, bought a house, and then ended up buying another house right in 2006. And that was, I think, the day after I bought my big house, the market crashed.
I was going to say, that's a
great
time to buy, right?
Yeah. At the time I got a great deal on it, but, in retrospect, it sucked. And that's, so I built a good business, and that's really when 2006, 2007 is when things really started to go downhill for me. And we haven't, I haven't shared this with y'all, but that's where, when I said giving back and trying to do what I can for other people is massive to me. So in 2007, my son, who we adopted, we found out that he had an incurable disease. It won't kill him, but he can't get rid of this. He's missing an enzyme in his bloodstream. So
Wow.
we started to get every other week $25,000 of medicine that would show up on our front door that insurance wouldn't cover.
Wow.
Oof.
And the market was crashing at that point. You know, the real estate market was quickly going downhill. And then in 2008, our youngest daughter, she lost her eyesight very suddenly. So we went from,
No
the big
kidding.
house, making a lot of money. Then my son gets this medicine. My daughter lost her sight. And, we talk about an exit strategy. You guys know what an exit strategy is. Basically,
Yeah.
at the end of your business career, what's your plans? Well, my plans in 2008 and really 2009 were, my exit strategy was literally, I knew the clothes that I was going to wear. I knew what I was driving, when I was going to do it. And I was going to take my truck, my F-150 up Interstate 85, which is here in Georgia. And there's a place called Lake Hartwell. And I was going to drive the truck off the bridge into the water, just end it, and allow my wife to take the insurance money and sell the house and kind of get on with things. And where that was coming from was ultimately I made the decision on November 13th of 2009 that I was an alcoholic, and stopped drinking on November 13th. So that was Friday the 13th. So we're coming up on 10 years that I'll be sober. Yeah. And it's a dark time. We lost our house. We had the short seller house. We lost our cars. I used to wake up in the morning and look out the windows and make sure that the repo man hadn't come and gotten our cars.
Right.
Wow.
And we were literally, I think, 2 days from being homeless, with 3 kids, 3 young kids, a very angry wife who had every reason to be angry. And, she made the comment to me. She said, "Matt, I talked to Mimi," which is her mom. I talked to Mom, and she said that myself and the kids are welcome at her house, but you're not. And that was like, finally, she's told me I needed to stop drinking 50 times, probably 100, but it never stuck. And, that's the thing with a sickness that you get, you don't hear it until that one time. So she said that, and I made that decision, but to stop. And man, ever since we have, my wife's, she and I are still married. We're 21 years married now. My kids are 18, 19, and 20. My youngest daughter, McLean, is, do y'all know what the Paralympics are?
Yeah.
So it's like the Olympics, but for those with physical disabilities. So she's a Paralympic swimmer. She swam in Rio.
That is so cool.
That's awesome.
She's at a college on a swim, basically swimming for them. She gets to speak to thousands of people at a time. Yeah. So she's, she doesn't want her eyesight back. She is who she is. She loves who she is. My son is great. We still got his medicine that we deal with. And my oldest, but he's working full time, and my oldest daughter is working full time, and life is great. I built a team. We just crossed, we'll close 160 units, maybe 175 this year.
That's a lot. Wow.
My goal is to get every agent that chooses to work with me, not for me. And that's a big thing. Nobody ever works for me. They work with me, to have the life that they want, be it from vacations to investments to time off to, time with their families. You can't make up the past. There's nothing you can do about the past.
Definitely can't.
And you can't do anything about tomorrow. All we can do is be present, in who we are right now. And I always say that every person at that moment is doing the best that they can. They might be being an asshole, but at the moment they're being the best that they can, or they might be the nicest person right now. And they're just operating in who they are at this point. So it's, we can't pass judgment on anybody. I have learned that because I was the biggest prick out there. for a good number of years. And now it's, I'll give anybody anything. And here's a quick example. And guys, I'll say this, and I don't mean this to brag on me. I do it because stuff like this has happened.
Yeah, no, I understand. Totally.
So there's an agent on my team that her car is in the shop right now. She doesn't know it, but I've already paid her $1,600 bill.
Wow.
So she walks in there, she's not going to get a bill. She's
awesome.
a single mom.
That's so cool that you're.
And I can do that. And
Yeah.
In the overall scheme of things, what's $1,600?
Right.
To me, it's not a lot right now. To her, it is. So why not be the good guy? And hopefully she'll never know. Now they might blow it for me, but I told them, don't tell them,
Right.
that don't tell her who paid for this.
Right. You're not doing it to get the
cool.
thanks and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
And I don't know that, well, I would say maybe she does watch or listen to your podcast, but
We'll try to keep her off however
Yeah.
possible.
I don't want to do that. We got to get you more listeners.
I appreciate it.
So anyway, I've gone on and talked probably way too much.
No, that is such an interesting story. And that's really cool about doing that. And the cool thing about giving when you do something like that, especially when you go about it anonymously, is that I'm sure that has a greater impact on you as the giver than it does for her.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's just, yeah, it does. It's a big deal for me to be able to do that. And, one of the things we do as a team is we give away Thanksgiving meals. We'll give away probably 200 Thanksgiving meals this year. Now our community helps us get those meals, but that was brought on because back in November of 2009, my family was given a meal because we wouldn't have been able to buy one ourselves.
Right.
And
Wow.
a handful of years later, it's like, shit, what can we do? Let's just return the favor. So that little meal that was provided for one family, now we're providing that meal for 200 families. And that's where,
That's awesome.
being the generous of giving, and it's not me, it's not me. Okay. I want to make that very clear. I'm the vessel to get it set up.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got people from our community that are donating $40 or a basket of food. And then we go buy the food and then we give it to single moms or single dads or just those that have fallen on hard times through the outreaches that we have. So it's that one little bit of generosity that somebody gave me is now not tenfold, it's 200-fold in that case. And that's cool.
Wow.
That's huge. And I think that's, a lot of people don't realize the impact of giving like that. Like you said, you didn't just impact one family, you impacted 200 because that family that gave you guys the meal, they impacted you, but now you're impacting 200 people because of that one meal. So
yeah, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah. There was a
awesome.
podcast I was listening to a while back, and this guy was just saying he had done very well, made a lot of money. And he was like, what people say about how money can't buy happiness, he's like, those people are idiots, because it definitely can. He's like, go write a check to a charity, or in your case, pay for someone's car bill. Do that and tell me that you don't feel better after doing that. You know?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's
Most people think of it as material things, but if you do
Mhm.
something like that, I mean, it'll impact you more than it will the receiver.
It'll make you want to do it more too, which is,
Yeah.
it's weird. Just here, let me just give my money away, but
Right.
you're making a difference in someone's life. So
Yeah,
awesome.
that's interesting too about you hitting rock bottom. And I think that what I heard, we didn't even talk about this before the show, but I've been Drive for coming up on 7 years.
Awesome.
From alcohol, and I went to that low place, and everybody's bottom is a little bit different. To hit rock bottom, it's I don't think two people's is exactly alike. But looking back, I consider myself very fortunate that I've been to that place. And your story is crazy, how you were planning on killing yourself. I mean, that is nuts. But I consider myself very fortunate to have gone to rock bottom. Yeah, sure. I consider myself fortunate because I can look back and now it just kind of makes everything sweeter, and it, I don't know, you kind of appreciate everything that you have now. Is
Well, I
that,
think
is that true for you?
what I tell people is I wouldn't wish my past on anyone, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Mm, that's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot to learn from that, I think.
yeah, I mean, if I didn't have the alcohol, if I didn't have the financial ruin that we were in, I can tell you probably without receiving that Thanksgiving basket, I probably wouldn't have set up for our team to go feed 200 families. We just don't know, right? So everything that I am today is because of who I was.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
you know, would you trade it? No, you know, for me, I would trade my daughter's accolades to have her sight back, but I'm not her. So
Right.
who am I to say, you know, oh, I wish this and this and this. So I'm glad that, you know, it's all good. So yeah, my thing is I wouldn't trade my past for anything, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's great. Well, tell us about your team and just the vision moving forward. What do you got in the works, and what are some of your goals?
You know, for us, the team, we've got a great group of people. We're, you know, we are continually growing. So if we find an agent that really fits us, we won't hire anybody. We're pretty picky, and I've got a process where at least one, if not two other agents on my team will sit down with the prospective agents. I probably need to open up and have the whole team interview agents that would love to join us. We're above goal. You know, what our expectations were for the goals for this year. We're behind a little bit, not bad, but we've seen some good growth over last year, so that's good. From a goals perspective, you know, I set my goals off the agents' goals on my team. Okay, so they'll come to me and say, I'd like to do this as in, you know, spend this much on investment, or I want to put this much into a 401k or an IRA. I want to set this much aside for my kids, you know, college, so on and so forth. And then find out what they would like to make from an income. And then we set our goals from there, which means, okay, so to do that, you have to sell X amount of number of houses at this, you know, average sales price to be able to do that. So, you know, I don't have huge lofty goals. They are big to a lot of people.
Yeah,
but I allow our team's goals to be set by the members on the team.
that's cool.
You know, so if they want to make an agent on our team selling 2 houses a month, 24 houses a year, can easily make, you know, $100,000. So
Right.
that's good money. It's great money. So if that's what they want to do, then we'll set our expectations from there. And then as a team, if I've got 8 agents that want to sell, you know, 25 houses a year, then that's going to put our numbers at X. And then I try to stay out of the business. I don't like being the term I use is I don't want the agents on my team to be in competition with the rainmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather pass those leads on. There are some that I do have to deal with, or I choose to deal with. But I like to give as much out to the team as I can. And then just hearing me say that, here's another thing that I would say. When you've gone through, or I always like to change 2 words, or actually 1 word, is I don't have to anymore. Okay. I don't have to go to a kid's soccer game. I don't have to go to work. I don't have to do this, this, and this. It's, I get to. I get to go to my kid's soccer game. I get to go visit her at college.
That's
I get
cool.
to go to work. And I think that just that one change in word makes a big difference. And now it's kind of a joke at our office. You know, I don't have to go this, I get to go do this. But it works. I mean, you just change your mindset. You just change your mindset over a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. Gives you a different perspective and just makes you more grateful for everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I don't know if that answered. So we don't.
No, for sure it did.
Yeah, here I am. We're talking to thinking it's going to be a real estate conversation here, and totally turns. And I love it. I think that's important to hear the story. That
Yeah,
you
that's a
have.
powerful
That's,
story. I'm sure that'll resonate with a lot of people, myself
yeah.
included.
So,
Well, I think it's interesting and I'm very fortunate to go traveling around the country talking to different real estate offices, mainly within Keller Williams, but and it's all about my business. The business that I'm in is real estate, but what I'm an expert in is, a couple of different things. But it's whenever I go talk, one of the things that who I am is an alcoholic. Okay. That has come back from, bankruptcy and all this stuff. And that's important for people to hear because they can say, oh, well, you've sold X amount of houses and you made this much money. But you have to realize that 10 years ago, I was broke and I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, or not the sharpest knife in the drawer. All it is hard work. In real estate, there's a term that I use is my R&D department, which is rip off and duplicate department, is really good. If somebody has a good idea, we'll copy it. We've come up with a lot of them on our own, but you do things. And so when I get to talk to people, it's real estate related, but we have to have a conversation about life because we all come from somewhere.
absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's so true.
That's great. Well, Matt, we're going to jump into our moments of truth section here. It's the same 7 questions we ask all of our guests. And I'm going to start with the first one. Who is your success role model?
Man, success role model. I'm going to use the standard Keller Williams line. If you ever talk to a Keller Williams agent, probably the one guy that I look up to the most in our industry, which is also in business, is Gary Keller, who's one of the founders of Keller Williams Realty, without a doubt.
Yeah, he's good. The one thing, that book really was impactful for me. I don't know if you've read that or not, but
Oh yeah,
but he's a powerful thinker, and he's good.
well, and you guys as investors, I don't know if you've read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That's a really good one, even though you're not in real estate, not in the business that I'm doing, but that would be a good one for you. That's a great book.
Okay.
Really good book.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yep. What's your biggest success?
Staying sober for 10 years.
Yeah, that's huge.
Love it. That is huge.
What does a typical day for you look like?
Up by 7 in the morning. Like to be able to hang out with my wife for a little bit. That doesn't always happen, but I'm in the office no later than 8. Working on business planning, meeting with my agents. So Monday and Tuesdays, we have one-on-one meetings with my agents, and then a team meeting on Tuesday. In that mid-afternoon, it's appointments. And then home by 4 or 5, and usually out running or playing tennis. And I've kind of almost cut out the evening appointments. Again, because I'm passing as much business as I can to my teammates. They will handle those.
Nice. What's your favorite quote?
You become the average of the 5 people you hang around most.
Yeah. That
For better or worse.
Yeah, very true.
For better or worse, that's true.
So try to pick the better of the 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you always want to be the lowest man on the totem pole.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because you can only go up from there, right?
Yep. And as soon as you're the top dog, as soon as you're the top dog, you need to find a new group.
Yeah,
that's right.
See you, old friends. What are some of your hobbies?
I love to play golf still. I've been able to do that more. Tennis, certainly, and stand-up paddleboarding.
Oh, nice.
I heard that's pretty tough, actually. Was it kind of hard to get used to, the stand-up paddleboard?
Not real. I mean, it can be if you're on rougher water, but if you're on a nice calm lake, it's just like it's relatively easy to stand up.
Yeah.
That's
I feel like
I'd
be the one where
your muscles though.
I was gonna say that looks hard.
Yeah.
Looks like a workout.
I'd be wobbling, unable to stand still. So, back on the books topic, what's the best? Oh well, yeah. What's the best business book? Sorry, Will.
No, it's all good.
The best business book you have read?
Man, there's so many. The one that got me started back into kind of where I am, I will give some big credit to Michael Mayer's 7 Levels of Communication. If y'all haven't read that one, that was a really good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Have not. I think I've heard of it, but I have not read it yet.
Yep. Well, since Brandon stole my question,
Yeah,
I'll take the last one. If there's one key piece of advice that you could leave our listeners with about achieving success, what would it be?
One key to achieving success. I would probably say do what you really take the chance and do what you want to do, not what you think you have to do in business. So if you're in a business that you hate and you want to do something else, take a chance. You can always go back, especially if you're younger. Well, really at any age, you can do anything that you want. So do what you love, not what you think you have to do.
That's good.
That's great advice. I think we all sit there with that decision like, oh man, I don't know what to do. I want to do this, but I got this going on. And
yeah. Look at Colonel Sanders. He was like 60 something when he started KFC.
Yeah, he sure was.
Never too late.
Absolutely.
So Matt, how can our listeners get in contact with you if they're in the Atlanta area looking to get a house or
sell a house?
Sure.
Sell a house and
well, or even if they need some advice, or any of the listeners need advice or just want to chat, they can. My direct office line is 678-775-2787, and then email address is matt@matthermes.com. So matt@matthermes.com.
That's great.
That's awesome. So yeah, if you're in the Atlanta area looking to sell or buy a house, that's your guy right there. So
yeah,
be sure to contact him, or if you have any questions really about anything, if you're struggling with alcoholism and need some support or some help, I'm sure Matt would love to chat with you. Not trying to volunteer your time, Matt, but
no, you're good.
It's the 12th step.
Yeah. And for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to the show so that way you're not missing any of our daily episodes, and join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealth junkies. Again, Matt, we appreciate you being on the show today.
Man, thank y'all. It was a blast.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. See everyone tomorrow.